This video is about the mom went to the mountain trail and a billionaire made her laugh. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden glow over the sprawling landscape of the mountains. Sarah Mitchell tightened the straps of her backpack, her eyes scanning the horizon. As a single mother of two, she had traded her usual routine of school drop-offs and grocery shopping for a moment of solitude along the mountain trail. Today, she sought both peace and a brief escape from the relentless demands of motherhood. The rhythmic crunch of gravel underfoot was soothing. It felt liberating to be surrounded by the whisper of the wind through the trees, the gentle call of birds overhead. She breathed in the crisp air, letting its clarity wash over her. Each step took her further from the chaos of her life back in the small town, where the walls sometimes felt like they were closing in. As she climbed, memories of her late husband flooded her mind, his laughter, the way he would challenge her to race him up hills during their hikes, always forgetting that she had to chase after their two young children. Sarah shook her head slightly, pushing the memories back. Today wasn't about looking back, it was about moving forward, even if it felt like she couldn't quite see the path ahead. "Just me and my thoughts," she whispered, a small smile forming, though it felt tinged with melancholy. About an hour into her trek, Sarah took a break at a vista that overlooked a sprawling valley. The landscape was stunning, a tapestry of greens and browns, with patches of wildflowers dancing in the light breeze. She pulled out her water bottle, taking a sip and letting her gaze wander. It was hard to believe that just a few hours ago, she had been in the throes of packing lunches and negotiating who would get the last cookie. Suddenly, a voice broke through her reverie. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Startled, Sarah turned to see a tall man standing a few feet away. He was dressed in a fitted navy t-shirt that highlighted his athletic build, paired with dark cargo shorts. His tousled hair caught the sunlight, and his eyes, a striking shade of blue, sparkled with warmth. "It really is," she replied, her heart quickening slightly. "I didn't expect to see anyone else out here." "Neither did I," he chuckled, a rich sound that made her stomach flutter unexpectedly. "I thought I'd have the whole trail to myself." "Guess we were both wrong," she said, trying to sound nonchalant while internally berating herself for the sudden flutter of excitement. "I am Sarah, by the way." "Caleb," he introduced, stepping closer, his gaze settling on her in a way that made her feel both exposed and seen. "You come here often?" "Not really," she admitted, her voice softer now. "Just needed a break. Being a mom can get a bit overwhelming, you know?" Caleb smiled knowingly, and for a moment, they shared a silence that was both comfortable and charged. "I can imagine. I don't have kids, but I see my friends struggle with it." The way he spoke made Sarah feel like he genuinely cared, like he wasn't just making small talk. She found herself leaning in slightly intrigued. "What do you do?" "I run a tech company." It sounds more glamorous than it is, mostly meetings and spreadsheets. He shrugged, the hint of a smile playing on his lips. "But I'll take a break in the mountains any day." "Sounds like you need it," she teased slightly, enjoying the banter. "At least you can afford to escape." "True, but I do find my life tends to get a bit lonely," he said, his expression shifting momentarily, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. "I miss the connection sometimes." "Connection," she echoed, feeling a pang of recognition. "That is something I've been missing too." Caleb studied her, the air between them crackling with unspoken understanding. It was intoxicating, this moment of shared truths amid the rugged beauty surrounding them. "Maybe we can help each other with that," he suggested, his voice low, teasing yet sincere. Sarah caught her breath, her heart racing at the implication. "Help each other, like hiking partners?" "Sure, why not? Let me show you the best lookout point on this trail." He offered a hand, his smile inviting. "Or I could fall behind and let you get away." She laughed, surprised by how easily he made her feel lighthearted. "I might just take you up on that." They decided to hike together, the conversation flowing effortlessly as they moved along the trail. Sarah found herself sharing stories about her children, the challenges she faced as a single mother, and the guilt that sometimes suffocated her. Caleb listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers, his responses filled with genuine empathy. "You know," he said, glancing sideways at her, "you're doing an incredible job. Most people wouldn't even attempt what you're doing alone." "Maybe," she replied, a hint of self-doubt creeping in. "But I still wish I could give them more. I worry about how much they're missing out on." Caleb stopped, turning to face her fully. "Kids are resilient. They learn from you, and your strength is teaching them more than you realize." His conviction warmed her heart. "You really believe that?" she asked, feeling a swell of hope. I do, and I also believe that you deserve a break. You should let yourself enjoy this moment. There was a seriousness in his tone, a sincerity that ignited a spark within her. They reached a clearing where the view was nothing short of breathtaking. Sarah gasped, the beauty of the valley sprawling before her. She stepped closer to the edge, the wind tugging at her hair. Caleb stood beside her, their shoulders brushing ever so slightly, an electric jolt coursing through her. "It is incredible," she breathed, her eyes wide open to the beauty of the world around her. "Like you," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, but it resonated deeply within her. Sarah's breath caught, and she turned to look at him, caught off guard by the depth of his gaze. There was an intensity there, a connection that felt charged and thrilling. "Thank you," she managed, her cheeks warming. "Just stating the truth," he replied, the corner of his mouth lifting in that infectious smile. The tension between them thickened, a heady mix of admiration and something else entirely, something that felt dangerously close to desire. Sarah's heart pounded as she struggled to find her voice. "You were not bad yourself for a billionaire." "Billionaire, ha," he said, feigning mock surprise. "I just thought I was a guy who likes the mountains." "A guy who makes me laugh," she corrected, a playful glint in her eye. "I'll take that as a compliment," he replied, his expression shifting to one of genuine interest. "But I can't help wondering what else might make you laugh." There was a moment of silence, filled with unspoken possibilities. Sarah felt herself drawn to him, the chemistry between them undeniable. She could sense the curiosity in his eyes, the way he leaned in just a bit closer, as if inviting her to bridge the gap that remained. But as the sun began to dip lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a thought crept back into her mind. Could she really allow herself to feel something for someone again? In her heart, she yearned for connection, yet the specter of her past loomed large. "Maybe we should focus on getting back to the trail," she said, pulling her gaze away and taking a step back. Caleb's expression shifted slightly, and for a heartbeat, a flicker of disappointment crossed his features. "Of course, it's easy to get lost in moments like this." "Yeah," she replied, her voice quieter now, leaden with meaning. "It is." As they began walking back, a tension lingered in the air, filled with what-ifs and missed chances. Sarah stole glances at Caleb, her heart racing at the thought of what could be, battling against her fears of opening her heart again. Unbeknownst to her, Caleb felt the same, aware that there was something uniquely special about this woman who stood beside him. He couldn't shake the feeling that their paths had crossed for a reason. And as they continued along the trail, the sun dipping below the horizon, both felt the thrill of possibility hanging thick in the air, charged with untold stories and uncharted emotions yet to unfold. The golden rays of the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows on the trail as Sarah and Caleb made their way back. The beauty of the landscape was almost lost on her now, overshadowed by the intricate dance of emotions swelling within. Caleb walked beside her, each step punctuated by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds settling in for the evening. She could feel the heat radiating from him, the warmth of his presence wrapping around her like a familiar blanket. Yet that familiarity was new and frightening, igniting both curiosity and caution within her. "Do you hike often?" she asked, trying to steer the conversation towards safer ground. "More than I should," he replied with a chuckle, his eyes sparkling. "It's a good way for me to clear my head, especially with the chaos of work." "Chaos must be a constant in your life," she said lightly, wanting to diminish the weight of his earlier vulnerability. "I can only imagine what it is like to run a company. It must be exhausting." "They can be, but being out here puts everything into perspective," he replied, glancing at her pointedly. "And people like you can make it a lot more interesting." The compliment made her heart flutter, and she offered him a shy smile, feeling a warmth creeping up her cheeks. "Well, I am glad I can help with your perspective. It's just me and my kids most of the time." "2 kids?" He raised an eyebrow in surprise. "I figured you were too young to be a mom of 2. You look like you could be in your early 20s. "Flattery will get you nowhere," she teased, trying to shove aside the flutter of her heart. "I am 36, thank you very much." 36, that is hardly ancient, he said, shaking his head. "You know, I think you and I are a bit of an anomaly. Most people our age are either settled down or too busy to even take a hike. Or they were lost in the chaos of life," she responded, a hint of sadness creeping into her voice. "I sometimes feel like I am walking a tightrope, balancing my responsibilities with my need for, well, moments like this." Caleb nodded, his expression softening. "I get that, but isn't it worth it to seek out those moments, even if they come with a bit of uncertainty?" His words lingered between them, heavy with meaning. Sarah's thoughts started around like fireflies in the night, illuminating memories of laughter, love, but also loss. She felt her heart tugging toward a connection she wasn't sure she was ready for. Sometimes uncertainty is all I have, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It is like I am afraid to reach for something more, to open myself up again. And nothing ventured, nothing gained, he replied, his tone serious, as if he was drawing her into a deeper conversation. Life can surprise you in the best ways. Or the worst, she countered, a hint of defensiveness creeping into her voice. I've had my fair share of surprises. He regarded her thoughtfully, the warm smile fading slightly. I want to pretend to know your story, but I do know that holding onto fear can keep you from experiencing the incredible. Before she could respond, the path narrowed, and they had to step carefully beside one another, their shoulders brushing again. The accidental contact sent sparks racing through her body, a reminder of the chemistry simmering beneath the surface. Does that mean I should just jump into the deep end? She asked, trying to maintain some lightness. I wouldn't recommend that, he laughed, the tension in the air easing momentarily. A gentle dive might be wiser. Gentle dive? She echoed, her heart racing. Is that code for flirting? Maybe, he replied with a cocky grin that made her stomach flutter once more. But I think there is something more to it than just flirting, there is real potential here. His gaze held hers, a steady intensity that made her breath hitch. She felt her cheeks flush, unsure whether to lean in or pull away. You're a smooth talker, aren't you? Only when I find something worth talking about, he said, stepping back slightly to create a more comfortable distance, but his eyes still sparkled with interest. They continued walking, the path winding through a thicket of trees as the sun dipped lower. The sky transformed, streaks of purple and deep orange painting the horizon. Sarah's heart pulsed in rhythm with the beauty around her, yet the electric tension between them felt like a living thing crackling in the air. What about you, Sarah? Caleb broke the silence. What would it take to pull you into that deep end? Maybe a good reason, she replied, her voice wavering as she took a deep breath. I mean, life has taught me to be cautious. After everything I've been through, I can't just sleep without thinking. You're cautious, and that makes sense, he said, his tone gentle. But sometimes the best memories come from those leaps. If only it were that easy, she muttered, glancing away. The ache of longing clashed with her desire to protect herself. Tell me about one of those memories, he encouraged, stepping closer, a genuine interest lighting his eyes. She hesitated, caught between the urge to share and the instinct to shield her heart. There was this one time, before everything changed. My husband surprised me with a trip to the mountains. He loved to hike, and I thought, sure, why not? What happened? Caleb prompted gently, sensing there was more beneath her words. Sarah's heart tightened. It was one of the last trips we took before he passed away. We laughed, we raced up the trails, and I pretended to be annoyed with him, but I wasn't. I missed him so much after. The flood of emotions threatened to spill over, and she swallowed hard, feeling a lump in her throat. That was the last time I let myself enjoy something outside of my responsibilities. That is just hard. I can't imagine how tough that must have been for you, he said softly, the sincerity in his voice like a balm on her wounded heart. Life isn't always easy, but it is important to remember that joy is still out there, waiting for you. I know, she replied, her voice wavering with both gratitude and pain. I just have to remind myself that I can feel joy again. Caleb's gaze bore into hers, filled with an understanding that made her heart swell. And if you ever want to share that joy with someone, I'd like to be that person. The air thickened with unspoken promises, and Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. But just as quickly, doubt crept back in, draping itself like a shroud over her heart. Caleb, But before she could finish, the sound of rushing water interrupted them. They had reached a small creek that cut through the trail, the water glinting like diamonds in a fading light. Let us take a break, Caleb suggested, motioning toward a large rock nearby. This looks like a perfect spot. Sarah nodded, grateful for the reprieve. They settled onto the rock, the sound of the water providing a soothing backdrop. The world around them faded as they found themselves enveloped in the moment, the tension lingering just beneath the surface. Tell me more about your kids, Caleb said, turning to her, his expression sincere. Well, there is Emma, she is 8, and then there is Jonah, who is 5, she started, her heart warming at the thought of them. Emma is all about science and art, while Jonah is a whirlwind of energy. They keep me on my toes. Sounds like you've got your hands full, he said with a smile, leaning closer. But I can tell you're a great mom. Kids have a way of showing us what matters. Thanks, she replied softly, the compliment washing over her like a warm embrace. I just want to make sure they're happy. And you deserve happiness too, you know, he said, his voice low and earnest, sending a jolt through her. You're worth it. The sincerity in his words stirred something deep within her, a longing for connection that made her heart ache. Yet doubt lingered, whispering that she was dancing on the precipice of something dangerous. Caleb, she started again, but he interrupted gently. Just think about it, life is full of risks, but sometimes those risks lead to the most beautiful moments. She looked into his eyes, searching for answers, wanting to believe him. The tension between them was palpable, each heartbeat echoing the possibilities that hung in the air. You're right about that. Then let us put a pin in it, he suggested, brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear, a tender gesture that sent shivers racing down her spine. Let us just enjoy this moment. Sarah nodded, a smile breaking free as she felt a flicker of hope rise within her. Maybe this was a moment worth savoring. The air grew cooler as the sun slipped further below the horizon, casting a twilight glow across the trail. Sarah took a deep breath, allowing the fresh scent of pine and damp earth to fill her lungs. Despite the heaviness in her heart, she felt a sense of calm wash over her as she sat next to Caleb on the large rock. The sound of the creek bubbling nearby seemed to carry her worries downstream, if only for a moment. Caleb watched her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. So, tell me, he said, breaking the comfortable silence, what's the best part about being a mom? Sarah chuckled softly, surprised by the question. There is so much, but if I had to pick one, she paused for a moment, her eyes drifting toward the shimmering water. It would be seeing the world through their eyes. Everything is new and exciting to them. That is beautiful, Caleb replied, genuinely moved. He shifted closer, the warmth of his body radiating against hers. I can imagine it must make even the mundane feel special. It really does, she said, her heart swelling with pride as she thought of her children. Like last week, Emma found a caterpillar in the garden and was utterly fascinated. She asked a million questions, and for once, I could see everything I thought I knew about nature through her. Caleb leaned back, a playful grin spreading across his face. A scientist in the making, you must be quite the proud mom. Oh, I am, Sarah replied, her voice softening as she thought about Emma's curiosity, a reflection of her late husband's own thirst for knowledge. But sometimes I worry about balancing their needs with my own. It is like I am always putting them first. Isn't that what parents do? Caleb asked, tilting his head. But it doesn't mean you have to neglect yourself, Sarah. That is important too. I know, she admitted, her brow furrowing slightly. But I can help. Every time I think about taking time for myself, I feel guilty. I want to be everything for them. Caleb studied her, his expression serious. You'll burn out if you keep going like that. You need to show them that taking care of yourself is just as vital as taking care of them. It is a lesson in self-worth. His words struck a chord deep within her. She felt the flutter of hope mingled with fear. It is so much easier said than done, she murmured, glancing at him. What about you? What do you do for yourself? Caleb hesitated, his expression shifting as he considered his response. I bury myself in work, he confessed. It is easier to stay busy than to face everything else. Sarah could hear the weight in his voice, a reflection of the responsibilities he carried, and her heart ached for him. It must be lonely sometimes, she said gently. Running a company surrounded by people, but still feeling isolated. Lonely is an understatement, he replied, his gaze unwavering. I have friends, but it is different. I am always Caleb the billionaire, and it is hard to let people in. The vulnerability in his words sent a thrill down her spine. You're more than just a title, she said softly, her voice steady. You're you. A flicker of surprise crossed his features, and then he smiled, a genuine warmth lighting up his eyes. Thank you for saying that, Sarah. It is nice to be seen for who I am, not just what I have accomplished. Everyone deserves that, she murmured, their eyes locking, the unspoken connection deepening in the space between them. As the last rays of sunlight faded behind the peaks, the sky transformed into a canvas of deep indigos and purples. The moment felt charged, heavy with possibilities. Caleb's gaze shifted to her lips, a fleeting glance that made her heart race. The air felt electric, thick with tension, and Sarah struggled with the pull of desire mixed with fear. Caleb, about what we talked about earlier, she started, her voice barely above a whisper. Let us not rush, he interrupted gently, his expression softening. I don't want to scare you off. I am here for the moment. Let us savor it. She nodded, feeling both relieved and disappointed. The tension between them remained, but it was like a taut string, waiting for the right moment to snap. They remained quiet for a moment, listening to the water dance over stones, the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Finally, Caleb broke the silence. You mentioned your husband earlier. How long has it been since? 2 years, she replied, her voice thickening with emotion. Some days feel like a lifetime, and others are just a blink that's hard to explain. His brow furrowed, the empathy in his gaze palpable. Do you ever think about what he would want for you now? A lump formed in her throat as she nodded. I know he would want me to be happy. He always encouraged me to pursue my passions, but it's hard to imagine being happy without him. Caleb's expression softened even more, and he leaned closer. You were not supposed to feel guilty for wanting to find joy again, you know. It doesn't mean you love him any less. Tears pricked at her eyes, and for a moment she felt vulnerable, exposed in a way she hadn't in years. I just don't want to forget him, or make it seem like I am moving on too quickly. You want to forget, he assured her, his voice low and soothing. The love you shared is a part of you. Moving forward doesn't erase that, it honors it. Honors it, she echoed, letting the word sink in. That is a beautiful way to look at it. Caleb smiled, the warmth of his presence wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. You deserve to feel joy, Sarah. It is okay to let yourself explore what that looks like now. A deep sigh escaped her lips, the weight of his words grounding her. You make it sound so easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is easy, he replied, the sincerity in his eyes holding her captive. But you were worth the effort, and I'd like to be part of your journey if you'll let me. The words hung in the air, echoing with promise and potential. Sarah felt a flutter of hope at the thought, a spark igniting within her that she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. But the doubt crept back in, gnawing at her heart. Caleb, I don't know if I can do this. It is all so new, so overwhelming. He reached out, gently placing his hand over hers, the warmth of his touch sending ripples of desire coursing through her. No pressure, just consideration. I am here if you want to talk or share a moment, or if you want to laugh at my terrible jokes. Terrible jokes, she echoed, a smile breaking through her uncertainty. I thought you were the master of smooth talk. Well, I can do both, he replied with a wink. But seriously, life is too short to not take a chance every now and then. Just promise me you'll think about it. I will, she promised, a heart racing at the possibilities. The moment felt fragile, yet electric, filled with unspoken words and tangled emotions. As they sat in the quiet of twilight, Sarah felt a longing rise within her, a yearning to connect, to let go of her fears, if only for a moment. Caleb's thumb gently traced the back of her hand, a tender gesture that sent a shiver through her. If you were up for it, we could hike together again sometime, he suggested, his voice low, serious. I'd like to get to know you better. The invitation hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Sarah's heart raced at the thought, excitement mingling with trepidation. I do like that, she finally replied, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within. Good. Caleb leaned back slightly, a satisfied smile gracing his lips. But let us take it one step at a time. No pressure, just moments and laughter. Laughter, she echoed, her spirits lifting at the prospect. You be good at that. And I'll keep working on it, he teased, leaning in just a bit closer. But you'll have to keep showing up for it. I can manage that, she said, her heart singing with the prospect of connection. As they sat together beneath the stars, with the sound of the creek soothing their hearts, Sarah felt the weight of uncertainty gradually lighten. Maybe, just maybe, there was room for laughter again in her life. And with Caleb's gentle presence beside her, the possibilities felt endless like the night sky above, vast and full of stars. As the stars began to twinkle in the vast expanse above, Sarah felt a current of warmth rush through her, filling the spaces where doubt had once lingered. The soft gurgle of the creek beside them created a serene backdrop, its rhythm soothing. She stole a glance at Caleb, who was watching her with an intensity that made her heart flutter. I can see you're a deep thinker, he said, breaking the silence, the playful smirk dancing at the corners of his mouth. What is on your mind? Just contemplating the universe, I suppose, she replied with a chuckle, trying to deflect the weight of her thoughts. And the fact that you might be a little too charming for your own good. Charming? Caleb feigned shock, putting a hand over his heart in mock offense. I prefer the term captivating. Oh, is that what we'd be calling it now? She laughed, the sound bubbling up from a place deep within. The tension from earlier felt lighter, almost playful. Yes, he insisted, leaning closer, his blue eyes sparkling with mischief. But seriously, I am glad you're here with me tonight. It is rare to find someone who can keep up with my banter. I am just starting to realize that, she replied, her heart racing at the proximity, the scent of pine and earth swirling around them. But I have to ask, how often do you charm your way into a woman's heart while hiking? Only when the woman is worth the effort, he replied, his voice dropping to a more sincere tone. You're really worth it, Sarah. The sincerity in his eyes made her stomach flutter. She felt a warmth spread through her, a mix of desire and trepidation. Shouldn't he say things like that? It what? He pressed gently, his gaze steady and unwavering. Makes you uncomfortable, or makes you want to run? Sarah hesitated, the weight of her past pressing down on her. It's just I haven't let anyone in for a long time. I am not sure I am ready to open up again. Caleb nodded, his expression softening. I understand, but I am not asking you to dive in head first, just to take your time and enjoy the moments we share. No pressure, just laughter and connection. Laughter and connection, she echoed, her heart warming at the thought. That sounds nice. Then let us make it more than a one-time thing, he suggested, leaning in slightly, his voice slow and inviting. What do you say? Another hike next weekend, or maybe coffee, something easy. Coffee, she replied, a smile creeping onto her face. Unless you're a terrible barrister as well as a jokester. I make a mean cup of coffee, he said confidently, puffing out his chest playfully. It's the one thing I can do well aside from running a company. Oh, I am sure you're a master of many things, she replied, teasingly raising an eyebrow. But I'll be the judge of your coffee skills. Deal, he said, the enthusiasm in his voice infectious. But you'll have to promise to give me an honest review. I can't have any sugar-coated opinions. I promise, she said, her heart racing at the thought. As long as you keep the sugar to a minimum. Caleb grinned, and in that moment the space between them felt electric. The chemistry that had simmered throughout their hike ignited, and Sarah felt her heart flutter with excitement. I am looking forward to it, he said, his voice slow, almost intimate. Me too, she replied, biting her lip, feeling that familiar tug of fear creeping back in. But what if the coffee is terrible? What if everything falls flat? Then we'll all laugh about it, he replied, his tone earnest yet light. And if that doesn't work, I can always bribe you with pastries. Now you're talking my language, she said, laughing lightly. I am definitely a sucker for pastries. That is my girl. He winked, and Sarah felt a warmth spread through her, igniting a flutter of anticipation. As the laughter subsided, a comfortable silence enveloped them, broken only by the gentle rush of the creek. Sarah leaned back on her hands, her gaze drifting upwards, taking in the stars that seemed to twinkle just for them. You know, she said slowly, I've never been someone who easily lets myself be open, not since, well, things changed. Caleb turned serious, his eyes never leaving hers, the warmth in his gaze encouraging her to continue. I get that, but sometimes being vulnerable can lead to the most beautiful experiences. What if it leads to more hurt, she whispered, the fear creeping up her spine. What if I am not ready? Then we take it slow, he said, his voice steady and reassuring. No expectations, just moments. You lead and I'll follow. That is how it should be. His words hung in the air, a promise of safety, and she felt a flicker of hope. You make it sound so easy. Because it can be, he said, shifting even closer, their knees almost touching now. Just take one step at a time, and leave the past behind. You are not alone anymore, Sarah. The sincerity in his tone warmed her heart, as she found herself drawn to him, a magnetic pull she hadn't felt in years. And what if I fall? Then I'll catch you, he replied simply, his gaze unwavering. You don't have to be afraid with me. As those words settled over her, Sarah felt a surge of emotion, the warmth of his reassurance wrapping around her like a blanket. The fear seemed to fade, if only for a moment, replaced by a budding sense of possibility. What if I want to jump? She asked, surprised by the breathlessness in her voice. Then jump with me, he said softly, leaning even closer now, their breaths mingling in the cool evening air. We can take the leap together. There it was again, the electric charge in the air, the uncharted territory between them. Sarah felt her heart race to the thought of crossing that boundary, the line that separated her from what could be. But the doubt flickered back to life, warning her to tread carefully. I want to, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But can we really do this? Can we really take a leap when life is so complicated? Life is always complicated, he replied, his voice soothing, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to find joy in the chaos. It is the moments we share that make it all worthwhile. His words struck a chord within her, and Sarah felt a warmth spread through her veins. You have a way of making everything feel lighter, she said, her gaze locked onto his. It is both terrifying and exhilarating. Most beautiful things are, he said, his eyes flickering with intensity. But you won't have to face it alone. I am here for you, Sarah. The sincerity in his words made her heart race, and she felt a swell of gratitude. "Thank you for being so understanding," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It is just I haven't allowed myself to feel this way in so long." Caleb reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her body, igniting a spark of longing that made her pulse quicken. "You deserve to feel, Sarah. Let me help you rediscover that." As their hands joined, the world around them seemed to fade. The stars shone brightly above, casting a silvery glow on their skin as the creek danced nearby, a soothing soundtrack to their moment. Sarah felt the weight of the past slip away as her gaze locked onto Caleb's, a mixture of fear and excitement swelling within her. "Okay," she whispered, a newfound determination rising within her. "I'll take the leap. I want to see where this goes." Caleb's eyes lit up, a genuine smile breaking across his face. "That is all I needed to hear," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "Now, let us make some memories together." As they sat beneath the stars, hands intertwined, Sarah felt the fragile threads of possibility weaving between them. The night was filled with laughter, connection, and the promise of something beautiful unfolding. With Caleb beside her, she felt a glimmer of hope rekindle in her heart, a hope that whispered that love, laughter, and joy were indeed possible again.